Okay guys, welcome to one more video, and here I have Phydias Barbosa. Okay, so Phydias, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, except for the isolation. Not
Yeah.
so good, but it's good to be here and to talk to you, Bruno, today.
Okay, welcome man, welcome. He has experience living abroad. Okay, he's a Brazilian, just like me and you, and he has some experience living in the US. So I'm gonna ask him some questions about this and some other things as well. Okay? So
I'm
Phydias.
ready,
Yeah, let's go.
of course.
Okay, man. So, first of all, how would you briefly introduce yourself?
It's easy because you always can find me on LinkedIn because there's a brief about myself right there, like on the profile. But today I'm a video maker, video editor, and I also do dubbing. I dub actors into the Brazilian Portuguese language for soap operas, series, films, documentaries, TV shows from English, Spanish, Turkish, Chinese into Brazilian Portuguese, shows that travel to Portuguese speaking countries like Angola, Mozambique, Cape Verde, and of course, Brazil.
Very good, man. Ruby. So you have a long history there over filmmaking, yeah?
Well, in terms of filmmaking, it started, I was very young and it was coincidental. It was an accident that had to happen because I had uh, the curiosity about how people make movies. And in my building, leaving one day to go to work, to my regular job, I met a director who hired me right there to play on his film. That was back in 1965.
Wow, 1965 is a very interesting year, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So, was it, I would say, this moment in our country, did it influence over the history of filmmaking in your life?
Well, absolutely, because we at that moment we had beautiful movies made by Brazilians, and also we had the French and Italian nouvelle vague that we watched here a lot in Brazil at the end in the end of the 50s and also 60s and 70s. So during that period of time when people call it a dictatorship or the military coup in Brazil that happened in 1964. Um, we young people we didn't feel that much because we had the ability of doing whatever we wanted, except if we were like marked as someone against that type of government, and we were like in a mixed like in a group of socialists or communists. Of course we will be persecuted. But I was in an area, the artistic area, where people were more laid back and everything had to go to censorship. Theater, movies, everything had to go to censorship. But some artists, like Chico Buarque and many others, they could publish songs that the military people did not understand. It was it was against their thoughts, so it went like meteors around, and it never touched planet Earth. So it never touched some people's brains, like the generals and whatever, right? So this also happened with the theater and with the movies, and that's how Cinema Novo gained a lot of power because it could tell a story about a poor man from the favela in Rio de Janeiro, like Rio 40 Graus or Rio Zona Norte by Nelson Pereira dos Santos. And these films are classic and historic. So if you watch them today, it's really nice because you can see how Rio was, but you also see how Rio de Janeiro, in this case, is today.
Exactly, and some things never change, yes?
No.
Some things they're still there with a different face, but they're still there, yeah?
Absolutely.
So, my friend, I would like to ask you, as a filmmaker, were there any moment of hesitation? I mean, talking about art in Brazil sometimes, yeah, many people struggle. Were there any moment of hesitation along your career?
Never, but let me just correct something. The word filmmaker applies to me for certain things I did as writer, producer, director, and also the person responsible for the executive production. So that's what you can call a filmmaker. A filmmaker is basically a creative person who puts together a production from the point of view of artistic direction, right? And he finds his crew, he finds his talent, his equipment, whatever he wants, with the help of the producer. So most of the time, my role in any type of movies or documentaries or short commercials I produced in Brazil and abroad were on the position of a production manager or executive producer.
Okay.
I was on the side of the director, but not directing myself. But that gave me a lot of experience watching other people directing, also taking some classes, etc., etc. So I could direct my own, like short movies, feature film, and films that I co-produced and I direct, like that one you can see there. That one I was producer and director of one episode. And recently I also produced and directed a film by the name of Girl Made of Thorns. I went to São Paulo, interior of São Paulo, to shoot it as a director only. So I got a salary to be a director, not like a producer. So things change when you are in this type of business. You can be an executive producer one day, the other day you can be an assistant director, which I was many times. I was also location manager, which means that a Brazilian producer wanted to film a commercial or a documentary in Europe or in the United States of America. Oh, Phydias, I'm talking about the 60s, 70s, and 80s, when everything was different. The producer will ask me, or the director, I need locations in Malaga, Spain. I also need a number of great ladies who dance flamenco. I need a flamenco tablao, and I need a beautiful house and players for this commercial of cigarette, Minister, Hollywood, whatever. And then they would send me abroad to look for the location, to look for the talent, to look for local crew, look for equipment right there. So I was the one who hired local people to put together any type of production.
A hard thing, yeah?
And it started on the other side when some Italian producers, French producers, American producers came to Rio in the 70s. I was on the list of people to be hired because I knew everything about Rio and São Paulo.
You kind of had already you were already known.
Yes, I helped them to put their production together here, and I learned from them how to bring our Brazilian production to Europe or to the United States. That's how I started to overlap between three different continents. Working as an executive producer, production manager, assistant director, location manager in many productions. It took me to Brazil, all over the country, from the south, Rio Grande do Sul, to the Amazon, only helping international producers to put together their production. So, like for example, I never had been in Foz do Iguaçu, by an example. And I always wanted to go there. And then there's this opportunity. Location manager, we need a location manager in Iguaçu Falls. Oops, it's me.
Yeah.
So, things like that. Oh, we need somebody in Brasilia. We need somebody to go to Manaus, to Pará. Yeah. So I kind of flew all over the country just helping international producers and also taking their places sometimes because they didn't know the local culture. I had something in my favor, which was dealing with people. I remember some moments where people from abroad, they did not understand how to deal with Brazilian people. They said, okay, hold on, excuse me. And then I said, excuse me, let's start from the beginning. This is not the way to deal with these people. Let me deal with them. So they go, okay, let's listen. I listen to you. So that's how I was for a long time.
And that shows that culture
doing this
is a
course.
very, very important thing. Yeah,
you cannot go to a macumba place and tell the guys what to do. So no. We have to film what they're doing.
Yeah.
Put 4 cameras here and film what they're doing. Don't ask them to do this, to do that. No, they're not gonna do it. They're not gonna listen to you. You know?
Exactly. That's the
Detail.
Yeah. Talk more about this experience abroad. Yeah. You've lived in the United States for.
Well, I went to the U.S. accidentally again in 1981
Mm-hmm.
because one of these producers who came from Hollywood, Los Angeles, and produced a huge production in the state of Rio de Janeiro. They brought 22 lions, 6 hyenas, 6 leopards, and
Real thing.
real ones, horses and stuff, trained in Hollywood
Mm-hmm.
to film in Vassouras, Estado do Rio, yeah, making the location look like an African coffee plantation,
Mm-hmm.
especially an African mansion that was the center of this famous plantation in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't need to go to Africa, and for them, for the Americans, it was much cheaper to film in Brazil because they had, at that moment, we're talking about 1980, some American companies located in Brazil, they could not send all their money to the US. They had to send very little amounts and invest the money they made in Brazil right in Brazil. So some companies said, how are we going to invest? We have a lot of money, we don't know what to do with this money. So they made contact with Hollywood producers. Look, we got 1 million reais here, so you can use this money for filming. And say, oh, sure, of course, why not? So they brought the whole people from Hollywood to film right here.
Nice,
And the
very
film
nice.
is available on YouTube.
From which year?
1980.
1980. Wow.
1980.
And it's available for.
It's
free.
available on YouTube.
That's really cool. It's really cool.
It's
That's
called Savage Harvest.
Savage
Harvest. Colheita Selvagem. Savage Harvest.
Very good. So there's the suggestion. Okay.
Savage Harvest.
Let's check it out. I'm gonna check it out. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And so what happened after this production ended in Volta Redonda? Vassouras. At the end, I made friends with everybody, with grips, electricians, animal trainers, actors, actresses, director, producer, and they all gave me their business cards. I had like 45 business cards when the production was over, and they said, oh, when you travel to Hollywood, come visit me. Oh, when you travel to LA, come visit me. Come visit. So, great. So I kept those cards. We don't know what's going to happen, right? This is what we call networking.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So I said, okay, no problem. But my idea was never the U.S. Not at all.
It was so an accident.
I wanted to go to Europe. And I said, well, I have these cards. I don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But then, a couple of months after everybody took off back to LA, I got a phone call from another producer. Say, oh, are you Phydias Barbosa? I said, yes. Sandy Howard gave me your name. And he said that you were an experienced production manager in Rio. I need your help. Oh, okay, so what do we do? No, meet me at the Rio Palace Hotel, please, tomorrow at such and such time. So I went there and met with this guy, Peter Schoenberg. Cannot forget about this guy. He became one of my best friends. And I said, okay, what can I do for you? Oh, I want to do this. Here's the script. We can do this in Brazil. Da, 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 da. And 2 weeks later, he said, listen, my idea is to take you with me to LA. You spend some time at my house, at my expenses. I'll pay half of your ticket. You stay there, I'll give your car, and we're going to finish this budget right there. Because after a month, I'm going to Greece, and then you can come back to Brazil. I said, no problem. Let's do it. So I went to LA.
Was the opportunity? Let's say. It wasn't the window.
Yes.
The door.
Yeah. So I went to Los Angeles. I stayed at his house. 1 month later, he left to Greece, and guess what? I never came back to Brazil. I stayed at his house, took care of his house, took care of his dogs, his cars. And when he came back, he said, look, no, whatever you want to go back to Brazil, you want to stay here, I can introduce you to a lot of people. So he opened more doors.
That's really cool.
So Sandy opened Peter opened 10 more doors, and those 10 doors opened more opportunities, and then I stayed.
That's pretty cool. And how long has it been ever since?
1981 to 2000, it's 39 years.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. My older son, he's 38, he was born in 1982 in California. So that's how everything started. I'm always trying to put together a project here, and most of the time in the last few years, I'm teaching. I I teach and I have like my own, let's say, already organized workshop for people who want to learn the from A to Z on how to put a film together. And not only in Macaé, but also in Rio, and especially I started this type of workshops in Boston, Massachusetts, when I lived there. And it was a great experience because I put together young people, and at the end we had a short film made. So that was my start. So when I come to Brazil, I try to put together my own projects, right? And luckily enough, I can dub here right now because we are working home office. A friend of mine has a studio at home, so I'm going there to record once or twice a week for some of the soap operas I dub. So I brought all my experience from before into the video, right? Today I have a very, let's say, limited channel on YouTube where I have about 100 small productions that I did in the last few years, video, some documentaries, some home videos, some interviews, and some work for a news company in Massachusetts, from Massachusetts.
Many different categories, yeah?
Different categories, all of them. They're all under entertainment,
I see.
but most of them are jobs that were, let's say, either hired by an institution, an association. You can see them if you want, of course. Hired by companies to produce, and also myself to put my own films in there. So my last short that is available, because I have another short subject that is not available yet, but I have one that is very nice, and I made that by myself, everything from scratch. So the same thing I can do there, I do here. So for me, it's just to have a place to be, and I have my creativity, thanks God, to put my ideas to work.
I see. So
I love it here. I have all my families here except my sons, my three sons. I have a 38 years old who also has a little boy by the name of Marcello. He just turned 7 last Sunday on the 30th. And then I have Carol. She's now 28. She just turned 28 on the 23rd of August. She's also very recent, yeah. She turned 28. And Frederico, who is 24. So Fred works now in the motion picture business, and he is directing, producing sometimes, but mostly photographing hip hop music video.
That's nice.
That's his job now.
Yeah.
And he went to university in South Florida. He left for about a year and a half, but this year he went back, and at the end of the year he's going to get his certification.
Oh, that's nice. If you could leave a message to people 10 years from now, to the society, to the next generation, what would it be? What would it be? Yes, what would you say?
Well, after this pandemic, we're never going to go back to the normal we know, we learn. Things are going to be different. So the best thing that you can do, and everybody should do it, learn. Learn. Things that you like, Yeah. Even if it's an instrument, learn to play an instrument. Learn to have better skills on the internet, especially learning how to deal with some of the new softwares. Plus, if you like filming, editing, language, whatever you want, everything is available to learn. You don't have to leave your home to do it. So what I see is that there will be a revolution in Brazil and also abroad, US and Europe, okay? This type of revolution I see is that young people like yourselves are going to take the planet by storm, okay? You will do it. So people will do it, but if you don't take that train, you're gonna be behind. So take that same train or that same flying source, do it, learn, apply, and be a good person. Practice charity. It's wonderful. Brings a lot of things back. Believe that.
Yeah, very good, man. So That was it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this interview. Put on the description of the video all the sources that were mentioned. So, man, thanks a lot for your time, for your patience. Yeah, man. Okay, guys like that. It's
You're
like,
welcome. Yeah.
okay, so thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Okay, guys, hope to see you next. Bye bye.